YouTube watching? Are we live?
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the financial crash of 2023. As if the last few years weren't bad enough, I'm joined tonight by none other than the. Oh, let me kill this. Sorry.
I don't think, dude. I don't think it's going, bro. Oh, it
No, it's
just it
going.
just
It
now
was
started.
talking in the background. I had the video up so I could make sure we were live. So sorry about that. I'm joined tonight by none other than the recently famous constitutional stacker. Congratulations on passing 1K subs.
Thank you, thank you. It happened faster than I thought, and I appreciate everybody that has contributed to that. And it's funny because people who don't have channels that are, active creator channels think that they don't play a part, and I'm here to tell you that you do. Without you guys and gals, like, we cease to exist. So you are an integral part of things. Don't ever shortchange yourself. I'm serious. And we're just people. Like, we are just people that stack metals and go on camera and say weird stuff.
Right? Yeah. So it hasn't been that long for your channel either. You've only been on this channel for what, like 6 months tops?
October 1st.
October 1st.
Yep.
I think you did it in less time than I. Well, no, yeah, that's about 5 months.
So we got some people in here. We got Siren, of course. We got Roadhog. We got Frostbite. Hello, people. And we got Canadian Silver Seeker. So, what's up, Mello? If you haven't checked out Canadian Silver Seeker, like, he's really not, no offense, Mello, but he's like you. He's very mellow in his delivery, very even keel. Cool dude, puts out a lot of interesting, different stuff. So I would say go check out Canadian Silver Seeker if you have not already. See if you like him, and if you do, hit that button. Anyway, spiel over.
I have recently, primarily for other reasons, but through Coin Junkie, I have started purchasing Canadian silver. They're constitutional, and
Right.
Other offerings, and it's something that you can't get enough fractional silver. And I think today's situation is a prime example of that, because I am already seeing, I've been all over as I've had time. If any of you do know, which some of you do, I've been traveling most of the week for work. So I've been bouncing around. So I've been busy. I haven't had a lot of time to keep up on the news. I was literally walking into coin shops like, did any more banks fail? I haven't checked the news. And so, which was funny because at one shop, the answer was, yeah, we think so. So,
we got some big people in here, Coin Junkie. And of course, we got the goats. We got friggin' Savage. What's up, brother?
Well, there's a lot of people talking about how we are getting closer and closer to a barter system. Like, they're referring to constitutional silver as the best buy right now because you get silver, you get it in a fractional form, and as we're sitting here kind of on the edge of our seats waiting to see what happens, that's one of the best forms, as a lot of myself, you, many other stackers have said, as far as if it ever got to a barter situation, you want constitutional silver. And because Canada has some, and we're always looking for low premium, some of their 50% and 80% are not as popular as our 90%. And so for those reasons, I was like, why would I look at them in a negative light? Why do I not have more of this? So now I have quite a few rolls of 50 and 80%. And I just, again, like with everything, every little bit that I get, I just feel better.
You know what's funny about that, dude? Excuse me, guys. My lungs are a little bit wet. First off, when I started stacking, I had no time for constitutional, which is kind of funny, especially given my channel name. because I didn't understand that, a $1.40 face made an ounce of silver. Number one. And number two, I never was a huge believer in that barter system. I mean, I wasn't against it, but the more I talk to people like my LCS Harry and stuff, about like, I'm like, hey, dude, what do you think about, what's up, Donna? What do you think about, a CBDC and putting people like you and I out of the whole realm of things? And he's like, listen, man, there's always going to be people like you and I who value the value of silver and gold, sound money. And as time goes on and things unfold, especially with failed banks and failed, I mean, look at how much money people have lost in their retirement plans this year. I made $4, dude. I'm happy about that. No, I made a little bit more than that. I made like 3.2% in my IRA, and that sucks, but it's good considering most people lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the more I think about it, the more it resonates with me that sound money is going to be, in a failed economy, a better way, the best thing to have, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I was, through my travels, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and funny enough, I know some people might shun at this, but I like the Joe Rogan podcast because it almost doesn't matter who's on. If there's some big news event, they're going to talk about it to some degree. And today he had on another comic, Bert Kreischer, but that's not the important part. He told this story towards the end when they got on topic about the financial situation that we're in, that, I'll turn this phone off.
You're an important man, dude.
Yeah. Oh, for all the wrong reasons.
Salary management sucks.
He told this story about, he had this house. I don't know if it's this current one, but he had this house, and next to it was this really nice lot. And he always saw this guy over there raking the lot. Now, this is like somewhere around 2009. Guy would come over and, like, it's this big plot of land, like easily you could put a house there. And this guy's just raking it. And he knew that he was planning to build, and just it hadn't happened. And so one day he goes over to talk to him. And, he's like, hey, man, like, what's going on? Like, are you ever going to build, or like, what's going on? And the guy said he had lost everything well, not everything. I'm sure he still had the land, but, he had lost most of his fortune and his ability to build his dream house in 2008. And this is 2009. And yes, he still has this parcel of land, but as Joe said in the story, the guy was somewhere in his 70s. So, I mean, he's essentially, DOA. Like, he worked all his life. He did all these things, put himself in this position to hopefully live out the last few years in his dream house on some property, and maybe even pass down some wealth. And something like 2008 comes and just smacks you in the face with reality. And all of a sudden, all that prep work for nothing. And so you look at that, and some of the comments I've made, I think you've made them, Savage has made them, about even stackers right now. Like, I've already seen some things where people are like, oh, are you like ready to say I told you so, and this and that and the other. And no, we don't want to see this. It reminds me of a comment from the Big Short movie where it's Steve Carell's character, I forget his name, was talking to the other guys. They were trying to convince him to finally sell, I think, or maybe it was before that in the movie. But he made this comment that, if we're right about this, it means like the complete downfall of everything around us. The entire economy, the whole country, arguably the globe is just screwed. But we win because we bet right, and we saw this thing coming. But it was that comment that, like, in being right, we're still very wrong, and a lot of people are going to suffer. And that's, I think, where most stackers kind of sit. Like, we're happy we're not going to be completely screwed, but we look at the situation and we hate it just as much as anyone else.
My God, man, you just took my mind 100 different directions. So you got Joe Rogan and Tim Pool. I like those guys a lot. I'm not going to go political right now, but those guys are conservatives that haven't fully realized it yet because they're conservatives of the heart. So they think they're liberal, that lean right, and they're unrealized conservatives is what they are, because they get it. The left doesn't get it. And you're right. Anytime. I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like the majority of my wealth is 100% in. My wealth is not 100% metals, but the majority of my wealth is, and this is a 100% true statement, is in metals. It's in physical, tangible assets. I don't have real estate. I do have some, stocks that are tied up in real estate. I don't have any REITs. I'm looking at that. But I don't have, and I do have stocks. I do have savings. I do have bonds. But every time I buy, and see, I'm betting both directions, right? When you buy a piece of metal, you're kind of betting against the dollar, whether you want to or not. It's just, where you think things are going to go. And none of us want to see the dollar fail, but we see that it's coming. It's been long coming. How long can they kick the can? I mean, and you know how long they can kick the can? They can kick the can as long as people allow them to kick the can. As long as people choose to, remain ignorant, choose to remain outside of logic, and choose to remain inside the system completely. It's just not where I want to be. Because good luck taking my metal away. I mean, I got metals to back up my metals, if y'all know what I'm saying.
Well, and so here's a good analogy that I like to use for that one. What you're basically saying is the people kind of have to stand up. And a lot of people are saying this, like, especially now, because we start seeing these things happen. And it seems like 2008 was just yesterday. And then you have the pandemic on top of that, which was like, we thought that was going to be the thing now, right? Like, oh, okay, we made it through that. Things were starting to sort of normalize, post pandemic. And we thought, okay. And now we're starting to see this. We're on the same boat, government and the people, right? And to really call bullshit on the whole system means we got to sink the boat we're riding on. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They will lie to themselves, put on their rose-colored glasses, and just continue on, because when they do that, they don't have all of that stress, all of that worry, all of that, literal, like, hypothetical, what would that world even look like? And the scary thoughts, like, would we have police? Would we have hospitals? Like, when the country goes down, what does that look like? Does somebody else come in and take over? And then what are they going to say? What edicts are they going to put out that we would have to follow? So I think that's part of the biggest problem, is we have to sink our own ship that we're on. And if you don't have a life raft or enough fortitude to kind of say enough's enough, you're more willing to throw a couple people overboard and keep on sailing, right?
Oh, yeah. I agree. Frostbite. I like Joe Rogan too. Mellow, House of Cards, 100%. Savage, what are you cooking me? Send it express, DoorDash, however you want. I know it's going to be good. My camera looks fuzzy. I don't know what's going on. I haven't used this webcam since my last live with Savage, so forgive the bad film quality, but it is what it is. It's just so, you talk about 2008, right? You talk about the pandemic. I said plan. My bad. People have short memories. A lot of the people now that are in the world weren't around in 2008. I mean, I'm old. I was. You're getting kind of old. You were. we remember because we were of adult age. A lot of these kids now see, and that's how it works, right? Like that's why they don't teach the Second Amendment correctly to kids in school, and the First Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment, because it's easier to take away the rights that you don't know you have. So these people forget, and the kids growing up today just don't know what we know because we're now the old guys, which is scary as hell. We're the leaders of the world, and we're looking at the world leaders of tomorrow, and like, dude, I'm crapping in my pants, bro. Like, I used to want to live forever. I don't want to live forever to see that. And if you look at history, take the Spanish flu, right? 1918 between it was like 1913, 1918. When was the Fed developed? Okay,
I think so.
You look at the beer flu that came around. You look at all these wars, major financial changes in our financial systems take place. Hello, Lori, Albie. It's let's not talk age, please. I hear you, Lori. It's all done as a distraction. Like it's be scared of your health while we change the monetary system. Be scared of war while we change things that we don't want you to see. It's all look over here while we do this, and people fall for it every friggin' time.
Well, what are the coincidences that we made it through the pandemic, right? I'm not going to say unscathed. A lot of people suffered. A lot of people died. Things happened. It's weird because there's multiple perspectives. I don't know about you, but I worked through it. I didn't get a day off. I mean,
Me too.
Days
Same.
off. I worked through it. I there was never any shutdown. So it was very eerie to like drive around in that world. But now looking back at it, like I was watching a comedy special the other night, and somebody was talking about it, and they're like talking about these like year and a half, 2 years that they just sat at home, and I'm like, what? Like that, their experience is completely different than mine, and it just, to me, it doesn't correlate because I was like, we were, it seemed relatively normal from where I was. I mean, different, but there were still people out doing stuff, and I saw cars on the road, and it seemed pretty normal, less people, but I guess I never really stopped to think about everyone else day in and day out that I'm going to work and doing all this stuff. They're sitting locked in their homes.
Dude, yeah, I remember when this happened and people actually fell for it. I didn't even fall for it for a minute. I'm like, nope, this ain't the same thing. And a lot of my friends that are, I respect a lot, they sat back for a couple weeks and said, all right, let's feel this out. I was like, yeah, this would be us. I knew in my heart, but the only good thing is I went from seeing probably 150, 200 cars on the way to work to seeing about 5 and about 2 on the way home because I come home more often at night. That was great. It turned my hour commute into about a 35-minute commute. I was like, but
people were driving like 100. Like if I did see a car, it was like a blip. Like
dude, because you got to drive 100 to stay away from the vid because the vid's going to get you know what I'm saying? I'm going to outrun the air. I mean, that's how they think.
Yeah, they were just flying around. I would drive to work at like 5 a.m. ish. So, I think I had to be there at 5. So I was like leaving around 4:30 or something. And you're right. What was like a 45-minute, maybe an hour commute turned into like 20 minutes, maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, real easy. Like, and you never think how much traffic affects that when there's no traffic and no cops. God, it was nuts.
Canadian Silver-Seeker. I love seeing people drive by themselves with masks on, dude. Those are anyway.
You still see it. I saw somebody today.
I'm at the point now where I point at them and I laugh and I want them to see it because it's like, dude, wake up. But anyway, I want to touch on a couple things you said. You talked about how you never miss a day of work. I didn't miss a day of work either. In fact, because I'm a salary manager, what we had to do until the government gave free money at the expense of us and our children and our children's children through inflation, which is the biggest tax that we pay. is I'm a salary manager. Like my vacations got canceled. I'm still collecting on my vacations, which I'm finally getting back this year, that are owed to me that have rolled over for the last 2 years because we couldn't afford to pay staff until the government said, "Oh, here's some of your taxpayer money back at the expense of your children." And what that did is that took a generation that was already lazy, and it made them lazier and more entitled, and they have no idea what they're going to pay in the end, and they don't care what their children are going to pay in the end. They have no idea. Do you remember? Obviously, no, but you weren't there. But you remember what the Romans did when they were taxing the bejesus out of their citizens and controlling what they did, what their sons did for work, and penalties were death if you didn't go into your father's business. Do you remember what they
No,
did?
no, I
They
don't.
did bread and circus. Okay, so in the arena every Friday night, maybe Saturday too, you could go into the big arena. Okay, and it was free. Right, it was free. And they would give you bread. They would give you wine. They would put on like some kind of jousting show or something in the arena between the gladiators to keep you entertained while they were taxing the hell out of you and taking everything you were ever going to own and ever thinking of going to own to keep you entertained in the moment. That's what these stimulus checks did. That's what these bank bailouts are doing. It's all the same. Keep you distracted with bread and circus, give you alcohol, give you sugar, give you everything to keep you happy and compliant and not paying attention to what's really going on.
Well, that's a good point to make, because I remember during the pandemic there for a minute, like I think, and I, in my mind, like I said, my experience was different than some, but my wife at the time was already off of work. I forget how long she was out now, but she was already off of work at home, and I was still working. And they were talking about maybe shutting down liquor stores in Ohio.
Right. And they were never going to do it. But man, look at the tax revenue that generated.
They even said that, and it was like, that's all anybody was doing. Not everybody, but that's what the majority of people were doing. We're sitting at home getting drunk because there was nothing else to do. And so you start talking about taking that away, even if it's only conjecture, and people damn near rioted. I mean, they couldn't go out on the street, but it was very clear very quickly. And I think it was like, it wasn't even 12 hours or something. And like the governor came out and was like, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, and they talked about that here in Oregon.
They enabled alcohol home delivery with services like Grubhub and DoorDash and all of that in that same time frame. They're like, no, we're not closing down the liquor stores, and we're going to allow alcohol delivery to your home. So now, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me, but if I've never used it, but I'm sure you can probably still get alcohol delivered to your house now because of those changes that they made. So you're right. Bread and wine, I mean, for a different era. And even the thought of coming out and saying they're going to take something like that away when you almost have nothing left, but then throwing it back to you seems gracious.
Here's a carrot, peasant. Enjoy, beg for your rights, peasant.
Thank you, kind oppressor.
Thank you, kind oppressor, that I pay you. I pay your salary. So they talked about that in Oregon too, and I think it was all rumors from the people. I don't know.
No, ours was legit. Like news
shit.
Companies were reporting on it that it was under discussion at the state level, and the people squashed that real quick. Whether it was
dude, they were never gonna do it. They just did it to make people feel like, okay, we'll give you this so that you don't do that. I mean, like you said, it's like, and oh my god, it gets me. And when they gave out all these unemployment extensions, they take away your job, they pay you more, well, through the taxpayers and future generations, they pay you more to not go to work. The amount of entitlement they created, these people saw nothing wrong with it. So you were quickly able to detect who was kind of a scumbag in their moral, fiber by not wanting to go to work. Like, dude, maybe I'm stupid. I would rather go to work and make less and be productive and do something productive than make a little bit more off somebody else's back. That's just me. And maybe I'm not that smart, but that's just how I feel about things. And they created this whole, they took the entitled and just made them completely entitled. And a lot of people just felt like it was okay. And then they're like, they want to keep pushing the narrative. Oh, let's take your booze away. Oh, we'll let you keep it after all. Like, where's the line? The line only ends where people say it ends, and people kind of let them get away with a lot.
So, to get back on the financial aspect of today's problems,
can of worms.
I saw a short or a TikTok or whatever it was. I wasn't on TikTok, but you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. So I saw one earlier where somebody, I'm assuming he's somebody in the know, he's being interviewed on the news. And they were talking about this secret fund that has now, I'm assuming, been set up by the FDIC. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the FDIC. This must just be the government in general. So they set up now a secret fund for the banks to come to and say, hey, we need some money. Like, basically, I'm sure they're going to call it a loan program. We know it's not. But this guy is referencing this new program and stating in this short that they're not going to release the names of the banks asking for help for at least a year for the obvious reasons. If my bank is begging for change, I might just take my money out, which would, exacerbate the situation in their eyes. I don't care about them. I care about my money. And yes, it's insured. No, it's not over the 250, but you get the point. Right. So a lot of people just don't feel safe in those situations and might pull, and then that makes the problem worse. But then he goes in and he's saying, oh, we have this fund and there's enough money in that, and the FDIC has enough money and we're fine there. And then he says this, which is exactly the thinking of just about everybody there. He said, and the Federal Reserve, his exact words was, the Federal Reserve has infinite money at their disposal. Are you kidding me? Infinite money? No, you don't. No, you don't. Please, dear God. Stop the money printer, go burr. Please. No, they're not going to. That's how they're going to fix this situation. And that's just like you said, it's taxing our children and other people in the future. And they just don't know what they're getting. It's the kick the can down the line game. But he literally said it again, on national TV.
It's because people don't understand and they don't care. They just want the short-sighted amount of, what can I get today? And there's just no. Check your phone. I'm sending you something right now. Very top. Where are you? I'm trying to multitask here. I'm just a dumb old hillbilly, but here we go. It's the short-sightedness of today, and it's just check the very, very top. What do you think?
Let me look. I didn't see anything come through.
It's coming.
Is it an email?
No, it's a text.
Okay.
I told you, I'm just a dumb hick that had to do it. So, see, I heard it.
I thought I silenced this thing.
Oh, you didn't.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Do we have the ability to make something like that happen? I don't know. We're doing this on your end.
Yeah, I can do that.
Frostbite, you can do that. Frostbite might be joining the chat. And by the way, Savage, I see those eyes in the chat. Those eyes must be I'm sending Constitutional a big fat New York tri-tip steak. right? Because you're cooking dinner. Come on, bro.
So I want to
Lori,
highlight.
good for you. Good for you. Stay strapped.
Yeah,
Albie, yes, stay strapped. Good for you guys. Good job, people.
I was going to highlight that. So,
And get CCA insurance. I'm serious.
well, I don't have
get
my
CCA
insurance, but Ohio moved from the concealed carry permit to constitutional carry. Oh yeah.
That's great.
Which is funny because I already had my permit and my renewal was coming up. Hold on, let me do things here. What do I got to do?
I don't know.
Oh, there we go. I'll figure this thing out eventually. There's no good way to do this with 3, but I'll do it like that. Well, I don't want that.
You're smarter than me, dude. If anyone can figure it out, it's you. You and Sal.
There. That one's
By the way,
better.
Sal, if you catch this video, I love you, man. You're great.
So, Lori, it's insurance for if you're carrying a boomstick and ever have to use it. It's basically, they're going to help hire lawyers and fight any case that comes up and those kinds of things. Because unfortunately, in today's world, they do.
Oh yeah. Someone comes at you with a knife because they're all cracked out. You're the bad guy when you plug them and put them down. I live in Oregon. I have my Oregon. I have my Washington State and my Arizona. And Arizona is also a constitutional carry state. The reason I have Arizona is because it's easier to get than Nevada. And my Arizona qualifies me in Nevada. And I am 42 years old. I've never been to Reno. I've never been to Vegas. And damn it, I'm going someday. And when I go, I'm going strapped because if I walk out the front door of my house, I'm packing. That's the way it works.
Yeah. It's funny. Over here, you walk into coin shops and people are strapped. Like, I'd say 80% of the coin shops and bullion dealers that I go into have a gun on their hip. It's not a thing. Like, it's a show of force, I guess, but to kind of let people know you're not playing.
The guys at my LCS are strapped. I know what and where each of them carry. I won't divulge that, and they know that when I'm in there and half their customers are in there, if you're going to rob that MFer, you're probably going to get blasted. Frostbite, I see you've entered, but before you come in, I want to say Albie says, I want to print my own money. Must be nice. 100%. And Lori, if you get on USCCA, you can get concealed carry self-defense insurance. There's different companies that do it. It's cheap. It's like $25 a month. They provide you an attorney and legal coverage. So if you pack, it's advisable. Not a financial advisor, not a self-defense advisor, but it's what I do myself. I'm going to shut my hole now. And I'm also going to hit the can for a minute. And also, who was it that asked you? Someone asked if you live in Ohio. Oh, yeah.
I answered.
Tell them where you live, though, because it's the coolest name ever.
Troy.
For a stacker.
Troy, Ohio. I want to open up a coin shop and bullion dealer shop that's called Troy Ounces. Because how cool would that be? Mm-hmm. There's currently not any coin shops in my town. There's what I call my LCS, which he's really not. He just deals some bullion on the side. But he's about to retire in the next couple of years. So maybe Troy Ounces will become a real thing. Who knows? But
maybe I could be your co-owner. I mean, I'm kind of a metal hoe, so I might jack you.
Well, we can talk about that in a minute too, because stackers in general may be some of the unfortunate winners of any financial turmoil that we're about to go into, because we have dry powder in the form of physical assets, right?
Also, I think it's important that we hold cash in case other people that we want to sell to don't have something that we want to buy barter-wise or cash fiat. And I'm going to shut up again. So sorry, I had to throw that in there. Have both.
Okay. Frostbite, how you doing, sir?
Good, fellas. How are you?
Tired. I just got back from 3 days of travel. It ended early. I wasn't due back until tomorrow, but I actually got wrapped up and was able to make it home. So I'm happy about that.
Well, we've been talking about this, and I saw you guys come up. I was like, man, I have dropped the ball. I have not followed up. So I wanted to check in and see how y'all were doing.
Work's killing me as usual, but I guess in this economy, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you guys were talking about this. I think stackers are going to be in a good place, but you know who else is going to be in a really good place? People who understand skilled trade.
Well, that's still a little variable because I was thinking about this, right? So, like, let's take one skilled trade, for example, truck driving. During the pandemic and since then, there was a huge surge in the need for truckers, right? Well, now with the stuff that's going on, did Constitutional just drop?
Yeah, he's not on the stream. He stepped away. He probably closed it instead of hitting.
Yeah, he might come back. I'm sure he will. So anyway,
he'll be back.
Truckers, if the economy goes south in the wrong ways, which a lot of people are kind of pointing to, even, I know everybody talks about Elon like he's this almost, messiah.
Godlike apparition.
But even he has already made claims that if you're not comparing what's going on now to that's Constitutional getting a hold of me.
It's like, bring me back in.
So if you haven't made the connection between this and 1929, you're a fool. And so everybody talks about 1929 because of the stock market crash, but not too many people focus on the bank failures. And there we go. We got them back. So the bank failures was the real nail in the coffin, right? It's if people lose investments, it's not great, and it can negatively impact, people, but it's usually not severe. It, in most cases, shouldn't be detrimental. You're not spending your rent money on investments. You're not spending your grocery money on investments. Most people aren't. So if investments go down, it sucks. We can kind of move forward, though. But when banks were failing and people were literally losing everything, I think things get lost in the context of the story sometimes. And because it's like this concise version that gets put out in history books and other places, like, people don't really realize. I made the comment on that Nickel Hunt live stream the other night. I said there was a reason why your grandmother saved her tinfoil and everybody looked at her like she was crazy. Well, guess what? I think there's a whole new huge market for those life hacks that are economically based coming in the next 3 to 5 years, because that's the easy period that we're going to be looking at hard times. The 1929 crash, according to most references that I could find before the stream to look up, because I was like, well, how long did it last? How long did it really last?
A couple years.
The official, it's 10 years.
10 years.
The official statement by pretty much everyone that I can find that seems reputable, they said, we really, and if you think about it, that was, right before World War II. And so while
it depends what's
depression.
It depends what part you guys are talking about, because a lot of the businesses that failed were replaced within a year and a half, a year to a year and a half to 2 years. But the overall economy didn't do very well for about 10 years.
So, but here's the thing, Constitutional, and this is what I want. This is what kind of one thing that I wanted to come onto the panel. This is why I wanted to have this discussion. Fundamentally, we are in a different construct than we were back in the 20s. Everybody was a skilled trade, right? when you look at the economy, when you look at where we're at today, now granted, we have computer systems. If markets fail and systems fail and they lose infrastructure and we lose things like that, your digital footprint is going to be minimal. So how are you going to be maintaining things? How are you going to be able to survive? Those people who are going to be able to survive have those skills to be able to do certain things. If we lose infrastructure as a computer programmer, how are you going to do it? As
That's
an IT data systems manager, how are you going to do it?
Well, wasn't the tech sector the first one to start seeing layoffs?
Well,
And bank failures.
Yeah, so when you look at the bank failures that failed, what was the primary sector? It was Silicon Valley. And why is that? Because it's a volatile market. Technologies ebb and flow and all that kind of stuff happens. But when people refer back to 1929, when they talk about the early 30s, when they talk about post-World War I, pre-World War II, you're talking about an industrialized society that was on production, that was on the creation, the development, following the war machine. It wasn't computer development. It wasn't anything like that. It was mechanical. It was machine. It was building. It was structure. And when you look at how infrastructure failed, I mean, they look at the Golden Gate Bridge that was built during that time frame. That kind of stuff. Now, granted, the workers were in terrible conditions and things like that, but that kind of work maintained. If we have a major crash, if we have a major place where we drop and we lose some of our technical, these kids nowadays that don't even know how to do some of the basic functions like read a map, like navigate, they can't remember anybody's telephone number because they're so dependent on that piece. If we lose tech in this crash, if we lose tech, we're screwed.
Well, I don't think we'll lose tech. We'll lose the amount of options that we have in tech, which is bad for, nobody wants consolidation of the tech market, right? I think everybody wants diversity because it brings in more ideas. But one of the primary factors why they said that the 1929 crash didn't seem as bad was because the majority of the people did what? They went home. Back home to the family farms and back home to the small towns where they could piece together their collaborative efforts and make do.
Which is
so
what
now
happening today. 30-year-olds live at home and don't do jack.
Well, yeah, you don't have that now. So I think the potential for this to be even worse is easy. And so I was looking it up during COVID, right? The pandemic, the global economy dropped by 4.4% or something, like the whole thing just down. And that was already worse effectually than the 1929 crash was on a whole. So we just made it through that, or we think we made it through that. And now this is happening. We're in for a world of hurt. And I agree with you, Frostbite, but the thing about the skilled trades is there's going to be less jobs. Like all the boom, right? Like all these guys, I'll use the pressure washing guys because over on the tool side, I've seen a huge boom in like the last, 5 years or so with people starting pressure washing businesses because it's easy and lucrative and all this stuff. And so there's all these people that just do pressure washing. Well, the problem now is going to be people aren't going to pay for those, what they consider to be extra services. And so there will be some failure there. If the economy slows down to a point to where people are canceling services themselves, like if you have a maid, you know, now you're going to maybe make that decision. Like maybe during COVID, you're living in your house 24/7. You're like, no, I'm definitely not canceling that. But now maybe it's, I literally don't have the money for that. I have to cut somewhere. I'm going to cut that. So that'll be the interesting thing, is to see how wide this thing gets and how much of the markets it starts to take out. And then, as you know, that guy was spending money. Now he's not doing that, at least, and he's looking for other gainful employment. So maybe he's not spending as much money, and it's trickled down in the wrong ways, and it's going to hit, I think, 3 to 5 years, unfortunately, easy. And that's provided that it gets resolved in a half decent way, which I think we can all agree is not going to happen when, you know, government boys on national TV saying the Federal Reserve has infinite money. That worries me more than hearing that banks fail, because you know they're just going to print money and devalue the currency even more.
So let me ask a question to you two and to everybody in the chat. And by the way, thanks everybody for being here. We all appreciate you. I think I can say that for all of us. I know just Stack It and I do, and I think Frostbite does as well.
Absolutely.
Have you been to your online dealers, your LCS dealers, since Signature Bank has gone under, and what was it, Silvergate and SVB and 10 other banks like First Republic have been listed to be, you know, in trouble? Have any of you been out in the world of real money in your LCSs or your online dealers, and what have you noticed? Because I have a theory about what's happening and what I think will unfold as time goes on. I might be wrong. It would be the first time, but I would like to get into that a little bit.
Frostbite, go ahead.
So I've only gone twice, and the only thing that I've seen is prices are up. When I say prices are up, not silver. Prices.
Oh, just prices in general.
Prices are up.
So you think they're anticipating the market demand?
Well, whether you want to call it market demand, whether you want to call it, the anticipated silver boom, whatever, because as people have been selling, it's funny, people have been reactive negatively to this. So you should be buying when it's low and selling when it's high. People buying when it was dropping was a terrible thing to do. But whether you call it premium, whether you call it anticipation of rising costs, whatever it might be, I'm seeing prices go up. And it's like, but silver just took a blip in the up direction. It's going to correct. So if it drops, does that mean the price is going to stay there? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think silver's done. I don't think gold is either. So when I was out, and I said this in my last video, but I shot it horribly, and it's probably not going to get a whole lot of views. But I went to a new shop. So I like the Gold Depot when I'm up in the Chicago area, but they have multiple locations. And I was coming in from a different direction this time, and I was going through a little town called Chesterton, and they have another location there. So I got to go there, and I want to say his name is Brandon. If I'm wrong, shoot me. But the guy that runs it, I was talking to him there for a minute, a very quick minute. I had him kind of all to myself, and we were going back and forth. But quickly, people kept coming. And so the majority of the time, there were 3 of us in there. At the height of it, I think there was like 5. And then there were at least 1 or 2 people that basically saw the amount of people and for whatever reason left and didn't maybe have time to wait or whatever have you. But I asked him, And he said, right now, it's not a whole lot of new customers. Right now, what he's seeing more sales. He's seeing, people buying, stackers, and, people in the know. But, no one's coming in with large orders. I got $2,000. Give me whatever you can. He's not seeing that kind of demand. But he said he was seeing an uptick. And that's mostly us, I'd like to think, stackers and people that are, just shoring up their reserves a little bit more because we see the forest through the trees. But we haven't even hit the point where the general public, I think, is really on the radar, like, holy hell, I need to get some precious metals. But I will say on Joe Rogan's podcast today, he made up like a joking quip on the topic, and he's like, do I just need to go buy a bunch of gold? And sadly, and I know we're biased, but sadly, yes, like, I can't imagine somebody with that much money doesn't already have a bunch stocked up. And maybe, hopefully, luckily he does. But if I had excess money, I would have a vault. You know what I mean? I think all of us would. So I can't imagine, but I don't think the general public has entered the fray of realizing how bad this is about to be.
Can I interject what I've seen and what I may or may not be wrong about, that I see it going?
Good.
So I did a video. I did a short yesterday-ish, day and a half ago, which that was a fiasco if you watched it till the end. And then I followed it up with a long, which for my little channel went viral. It's over 7,500 views right now, which is friggin' phenomenal. I'm like, what? But in that video, I talked about what I talked about with my LCS, and he basically talks about how he's been crazy busy since Saturday, moved a ton of inventory. I think what a lot of people are doing is they're realizing something's wrong. And by a lot, I don't mean the vast majority. The sheep are always going to be the majority of people, in my opinion, especially in this day and age. But I think more people are waking up to the fact that I need something physical, tangible, intrinsic, and outside the system. And I think a lot of people don't have a lot of quote unquote money, fiat, to put into that. So I think they're leaning towards silver. And I think silver is fantastic. It's my favorite of all the metals. I think it's the most useful. I think it should be worth more than it is, possibly worth more than gold. But it's not. And gold is the ultimate hedge. And I think what's going to happen as time goes on, I think people are going to save more fiat and turn it into gold if things keep going the way it is. That's why I don't think there's been a gold run at this point like there has been a silver run. I think silver is more attainable for most of us. I mean, yeah, I'm on YouTube. I'm not rich, I mean, I have a lot of silver I could turn into, somewhat amount of a gold, somewhat of gold, but I think people are saying, look, I've got X amount of cash. I need to get somewhere safe. I'm going to put it in silver because I can get more of it. And I think as time goes on, if things continue to unfold the way they are, there's going to be more of a run on gold than there has been. I'm not saying it's going to be bigger than the run on silver has been, but I think the gold run is going to catch up. And I think either way you go, gold or silver, platinum even, you're not going to lose. That's my opinion. But I don't know. There's a reason.
Not right now, I don't think. I think right now, metals of any kind, I mean, heck, you could even argue these copper stacks that we've been building with pennies. I mean, theoretically, that's going to go up too. I mean, it depends there a lot on industrial demand. But, I mean, you almost can't go wrong at this point with just doing anything other than keeping your money in cash.
I know a number of people are buying gold by the pound, or not gold, copper by the pound. People are stacking it in fairly large numbers.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's almost at this point, it's almost anything. I was looking around. I hadn't been posting stuff on eBay as much as, I'd like to. Which seems to be a common theme for me. But I recently made a sale. I shipped it out today, and I was like, inventory of listed items is kind of down. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to list stuff. And then I looked around and I'm like, wait, like the stacker in me is telling me now is not the time to try to get rid of anything. And so I'm going to have to make that decision. I have some wheat cents I am going to list, but I still have, and I haven't changed any prices on anything. I still have a couple of coins up. I know silver hasn't moved that much, but I'm not planning on playing the market. I'm not going to change my prices. So the stuff that I have up will be up. Now, if I decide to list something else, I make that calculation when I list it. But at this point, the smart money is on silver. I hate to say it. And gold's great, and I have it, and I'm happy for it. And it's a consolidation, and that's key. But silver almost always moves more than gold. So I think right now, with the uncertainty, if you're going to try to make a bet on anything's better than $1, I think silver is your best bet. And it may not be the case, in the long run, but I mean, right now, historically speaking, that's where all the data suggests you should put your money.
What are your thoughts on that, Stacker? I've got some thoughts on that. Is he on mute?
No, he must have stepped away.
So, I mean, silver is what I like. I like it just because I like it. But when I look at bang for the buck, I can't go drop a bunch of money on gold, right? I mean, I just don't have that kind of money to be able to do it. But I am, and I don't know if you've seen one of the shorts that was done by 2-in-1 here within the last week or two, maybe it was 2 weeks. And he said, basically, it's like, how do you gain? And he had all these stacks of gold sitting in front of him. You want to know what, 100 grand in gold looks like. And the follow-up to that was, how did I get my first 10,000? And it's like, I bought a $500 gold piece every month. And I didn't change. Now, granted, not everybody can do $500 a month on a gold piece. But what it was saying was stack within your means. So for us, we're in the silver market, but not everybody can do silver. Not everybody can go spend $200, $300, $400 and drop, that on, 30, 40 ounces of silver. We just can't. You can't be dropping, $200 or $300 every paycheck. I get it. That's not a problem. Go buy copper, right? But the thing is be putting your money into something that isn't fiat. Diversify, yes, but you don't want to be throwing something in that's tied to, oh, we want to print more money, we're just going to add another zero. Don't tie your money up in that, because when things plummet, that's what's going to be lost. Remember that in 1929, when the stock market crashed, it lost 50% in a day. So if you're putting your money there, you could lose everything. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the only thing that I would say. What you choose to stack, how you choose to stack it, where you choose to save your money, that's a personal call.
Right.
All of it's volatile.
Now that you stated that, I actually pulled up the copper charts because I don't really follow them. It's okay. So it's up, right? I'm going to say this. It's up, but it's down. And in that, over the long period, it's definitely up, right? And I'm looking back to, the last 20 years. It's still up. But it's actually for like the recent time, it hasn't popped, given any of this yet. So relatively speaking, the price of copper is still low. I mean, yeah, I don't see any reason not to buy it. I mean, it's got an established floor, um, albeit a little lower than where it sits now. But I think, when you take into account everything since like the pandemic, um, we're in kind of a weird area. So I would call the floor like a little over $3. It's at like 387. It hasn't gone up like gold and silver and some of those things. So that actually might still be a very wise opportunity. And if you're buying it like that, and you're not assuming you're not buying like copper rounds where you're paying a lot of
No. If you're going to buy copper, you're going to want to buy bars.
yeah.
They don't have to be anything fancy.
Right.
But invest in smart. And that's the other thing with stacking that we haven't addressed. And I don't know if that's something that you want to talk about. And that is stacking for stability and stacking for collection.
Why are you attacking me like that?
I'm not attacking you at all. I stack to collect.
Dude, this sterling silver bar.
I'm a
it's
collector.
beautiful.
That's what I do. I enjoy. I spent $300 on a 1 ounce silver coin, and people are like, "You're freaking crazy." It's like, well, it's an MS-70. It is the Grim Reaper. There's only 666 of them minted. I am fascinated by the coin itself.
You're gonna have to send me a picture of that. Who makes
it's badass. So,
just so everyone knows, the reason that Just Stack It there is holding up that silver flag bar is because he knows I have a 10 ounce one coming, and he's trying to piss me off because it's not here yet. He's trying to provoke my envy.
So, a Grim Reaper 666 minted. Who made that?
Let me pull it up and let me see.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
I'm building nickel books while we talk. So
yeah, I have half a box
to do this.
Yeah, I have half a box to go through. I haven't found what I'm looking for.
For real though, he is trying to make me jealous with that flag bar because he knows, and it's not very nice.
This one's nice though. I mean, I don't even know who makes it. I'm gonna have to look it up. But for what it is, as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted it. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice showpiece.
I don't want to be friends no more until I get my bar.
So now, Constitutional, were you the one that talked to me about the Hero Bullion piece, the 10 ounce bar?
We talking about as 365 Days of Silver refers to it as the Naked Lady bar?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I am, and I inspired him to buy one, and I did get my 10 ounce flag bar from Hero as well, which will be here, I think, Saturday. Chomping at the bit, man.
Yeah, I love that piece.
Oh, me too. And it turns out they have a whole series of the not Arcadia. What are they? I forget the name of the bars.
Argentina.
So
thank you. Oh man, so beautiful.
The Argentinian lady, that's the one.
Yes, that's right. Oh, they're so, man, the series is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's an absolute gorgeous coin. To the point to where my wife is like, I like that coin. Like that's a good looking coin. Let me see if I can find. It's not allowing me. It's not allowing me to share my screen. Let me check something else. I'll pull it up in just a minute.
Frostbite, are you aware that I'm doing a giveaway coming up? I forgot to send you an email. I sent it to some homeboys, and I forgot to send it to you, I think. Are you aware
Slacker.
So I know.
Constitutional slacker.
Correct. No, I think I forgot. I'm sorry. But
no, it's all good, brother. Yeah, actually, I commented on your video that you posted today.
That's right. That's why I didn't send you the email. That's right. So Make sure you guys get in on that. All of you. It's not open to just creators. All of you. Get in on that. We have reached the 1K sub mark as of today. Thank you. And we're going to hold for 2 to 3 weeks before we do it because a lot of bots come by because they're GA whores. But once it drops, there's going to be three winners, a 5 ounce, a 3 ounce, and a 2 ounce. And it's not open to just creators. What's up, Johnny T? Make sure you guys get in on it. You're going to have to drop a comment on Savage's video. We're working on that right now. And once you do that, we're going to draw the winners in about 2 or 3 weeks. So make sure you get entered. And that includes you, Mr. Frostbite. Sales pitch over. Someone's typing away.
I can't help it. It's this damn keyboard and the mic's right here. So I can't spell either.
Me either. I can't spell my name. But I'm old too, so I can't remember it, so it works out really well.
All right, so I'm going to pull this up.
I told Johnny I would give him a plastic penny. I actually have one.
Oh. I was like, what the heck are you looking at?
I had one when I was like 2 or 4. It was fun. I loved it.
As far as like play coinage goes, they actually tried on this one. Like the memorials on the back, all the writing, everything but the date. Like it's actually pretty legit for a toy coin.
So go ahead and you'll see that I have something down in the gap. You see it down there in the back room?
Oh, I see now. How the heck did you add another year? He's smarter than both of us, Constitutional. He added a whole other feed.
I'm a dumb shit. I'm a dumb shit. That's why I'm friends with you guys.
Holy.
This is the Guinea High Relief Grim Reaper Ultra Cameo 666 Grim Reaper coin. And,
oh my God, that thing is sexy.
Is it 1 ounce or 2?
It's a 1 ounce coin.
Oh my God.
But
Hold on, that son bitch just knocked on my door. Should I answer?
Hold on. So it's showing a $319 price tag. Is that right?
So I didn't pay that for it. They range anywhere. You can get them as low as $220. But you have to be really careful with this particular one and make sure that if you buy it, you get the COA with it. And it's got to have, you have to have the COA.
Well, theoretically, if it's graded,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are still counterfeits out there that have NGC logos or PCGS logos.
Well, no, I know that, but they're counterfeiting that coin.
Say again.
How could you counterfeit that coin?
Trust me, they are counterfeiting this coin, and in fact, they have. You know they're counterfeiting like 1916 Lincoln pennies. Like
that's crazy.
Pennies that are just like a dime a dozen. I mean, like they're not anything major. You have to be very careful whenever, even if you're purchasing something in a graded container, you need to look at the container. You need to find out where the source is. You need to make sure it's trusted. So not to promote anybody, but like this one is on Bullion Shark, right? Or SD Bullion or Hero Bullion. So if you're going to buy something, shop around the major bullion retailers and make sure you get a deal from it. I wouldn't buy this from eBay.
Now I'm looking at my 16D. Like, is it legit? It should be.
Well, and again, when you're looking at things, I've done the whole counterfeit series thing on my channel. So if you want to see that, look at it. But so like I have, let me see if I can go ahead and kill my screen. Go ahead and take that off. I'll do that for you.
Before you take it off,
let me turn on. He's like, how the hell are you doing all of this?
Frostbite. There is a change in my giveaway. If you win first, second, or third place, you got to send me that coin. That thing is killer, dude. I want it.
Nice.
But again, here's my thing. The new stacker. Now, mind you guys, I've only been doing this for what, 4 months, 5 months, right?
Right, but you were collecting long before that.
I hadn't done any collecting for like 15 to 16 years
Right,
prior.
but you're not completely new. That's an
Well,
important statement.
I collected pennies and nickels and dimes.
Right.
Okay.
So when it comes to stacking or collecting higher end stuff, I'm brand new.
Okay.
Right. I never had the resources as a kid. I didn't come from an environment where I had access to that kind of money or that kind of resource. So, but I did have a grandfather who was interested in it, and he collected a lot of cool stuff. Now, I'm trying to pull this up, but I'm not sure why. Oh, I got to go into here. Hold on. I got to change my camera. Trying to find out why it wasn't working. And it's because I don't have my camera turned on.
Is there anybody else trying to join the video?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. I sent an email to one person, but it was an hour after they sent me an email, so they probably didn't catch it. It's a guy named Salivate Metal. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I said, join the chat. We'd love to have you.
Oh man,
Is
that
Uncle
was
Sal coming up?
No, I think I sent the email too late, but I did tell him, hey, come join, but I don't think he caught it. But pay attention because it's on your end. So
yeah.
we have to pay homage to the GOAT, man. Sal's the G of G's. I love that guy.
So I get what you're saying. I think Frostbite, the importance of stacking for weight, which is what I'm attempting to focus on this year. Like when I was at the coin shop, they had some old constitutional sets and some different things that I could have picked up, but I went with a relatively boring 5-ounce bar. I was going to go 10, but then I saw this flag.
It's sexy. No, not boring. Sexy.
No, well, it is. It's better than like what I could have done. This, I guess they call it like a Unity bar, but as far as things
that sounds Joe Biden-ish. I don't like that.
I don't either, and I don't know why because it doesn't say Unity anywhere on it. But that's what the shop owner told me they're called. So, I mean, yeah, stack for weight. Especially anyone getting in right now. I mean, I hate to say it, but leave the semi-numismatics alone. Leave all that alone. Focus everything you can on getting some weight up.
I'm focusing on two different aspects of weight this year. I'm trying to get the weight up in my stack and the weight down on my fat ass. So that's where I'm at. Weight up on the stack, weight down on my fat ass.
I wish I had my weight in silver.
Me too.
I'm gonna join a gym.
I would be stacked.
Yeah.
So this is just stacking. This is what I was talking about. So if you'll make that bigger, you'll see this is an 1877 Indian head penny that is a counterfeit. Now, if you look at the 77, you're going to see how wonky the numbers are on that.
Not changing.
Down below on the bottom where you see mine, there'll be a big window. Click on the window on the left.
Oh, okay. I see.
There you go. Aha. So what you're seeing, see how wonky those numbers are?
Yeah.
That is nothing like a normal coin. So if I take this, let me not do that one. Let me find, I'll just use the 1980. So if you look at the 1980, you'll see how clean those lines are, right? Mm-hmm. Really nice, really clean. But when you turn around and you look back at this one, you can see how wonky those letters are, right? And you'll see things like, you see how spotty and how grainy the field is.
Yeah.
How soft all the details are, but then you see how sharp that Liberty is. So there's details like this you're going to want to look at when you're looking at things like counterfeits. But this is the one, and I did another thing on this one. This is the one that is, it's a total joke. MS65 1907 high relief, $20 double Gordon's Gold Eagle. Okay. This is in an NGC slab label Okay. Beauty coin. NGC 1907. Now, I know this is a counterfeit because I had the person who was showing me these things. Number one, the label's wrong. But you want to know what else? It's in a PCGS holder.
Oh, snap.
Okay. So when I tell people don't trust a graded coin, you need to make sure you know what you're buying. Okay. And this goes within the stacking realm. This goes within the collector realm. You need to know what you're buying. So again, if you're going to be buying stuff, buy from a reputable dealer, buy from somebody who has guaranteed on their stock. There are certain things that you want to take care of. But I tell people all the time, right? Now this is one of the old rattlers, right? PCGS Dicam, or not rattlers. What do they call those? The white label. They're the PCGS ones before they shifted to the other ones. Okay. PCGS holder. It's got all the right documentation. It's got all the right stuff. This is a viable holder. This is an NGC label. Now, by the way, we reported this number. It's been reported to NGC. So if you go to this particular one, you see this coin, it's been pooled as not to deceive anybody. Now, if you look at this coin from this vantage point, it looks pretty good. But if you look at it from my end, you can tell it's bronze. It's not actually a gold coin.
Oh, so they didn't even plate it or anything?
Say again?
They didn't even plate it or anything?
Yeah, but I want you to look at something, okay? Look at the label here. What does that say?
Official grading service of the ANA and PNG.
Okay, so who is that?
ANA is the American numismatics. Wait.
Okay, but this is
Well, I thought that's
a folder with an NGC logo and the United States Mint sticker.
Oh, okay. Now I'm seeing it.
So what I was trying to get to people to understand when I had this label put together was that people can do whatever they want to. You need to make absolutely, and you can put this back on me. I'm going to go ahead and kill that camera. Or you take it off of me. I don't need you to display me. But again, it's just one of those things where if you're going to be tracking these things and you're going to be looking at stuff like that, make certain you know what you're getting. Now, the same goes, and I think Uncle Sal has talked about this. I know Silver Seeker's talked about this, and that is even if you're buying gold or silver bars, Mike Mid-America Coins. I had a discussion on this where, people bringing in silver bars and they're not silver. They're coated, they're plated. But buy from reputable dealers. There's the old adage, if it's too good to be true, probably is.
That's why it's a toss-up because some people still prefer the local coin shop because they have somewhere they can physically go back to. But most of the reputable online retailers stand behind, their shipments. They videotape the packaging. They take a lot of steps to make sure that, what they're sending you is what you're getting and that it's authentic. So in that, it is almost a toss-up between online reputable retailers and the local retailers as far as who to trust. And I mean, I know people have had bad coin shops, bad experiences with online retailers. So you got to kind of feel that out and see. But I think on a whole, as long as you're shopping somewhere, that has some history, then you're going to be fine.
Also, this is one that is it's absolutely amazing to look at at those kind of things. But again, I don't want to derail the conversation from what you guys were talking about. I know that people came in for a specific discussion. You were talking about specific coins and things like that. I wanted to show you the other one. I want to go ahead and swing this back on target. Let's get back onto the discussion that we were having. This is something that we can house a discussion. If people are interested in things like counterfeits and what to look for and where to get items from, then we can house a special one to do that. That's cool. I'm happy to do that because I am all about education. But let's go ahead and get back to the stacking discussion. And again, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
No, not at all. I mean, it's an important point to make. Constitutional. I know you have some different stuff. If you had to put a percentage on it, how much, what we'll refer to as weight silver versus, pretty silver, like what's your percentage there?
Oh God. So that is such a hard question to answer. I'm gonna be honest with you. I started stacking in 08 or 09. I stacked silver back then. Took a couple years break. Kind of got back into it moderately for years, and like the last 3-4 years, I've been stacking super heavy. But it's been an even split over sexy and less sexy. I'm not a numismatic guy. Never have been. I'm not an ASE guy because it's just silver. However, I am going to start stacking the hell out of ASEs when the premium goes down, so that when the people that want to overpay for them again, I can swoop in and buy more weight. But Savage, good night, brother. Sleep tight. Don't hit me up at midnight. Ha! That was a rhyme. Because my fat ass gonna be asleep. Love you, buddy. That's our time to talk. But it's hard to say. I would have told you with 3-4 years ago, 70% non-sexy, 30% sexy. Now I'm going to say it's closer to 50-50.
Okay, so you do have
maybe 60-40
that you paid a premium for just because of how it looks, or
just because I'm stupid. Yeah, because I've gotten to the point where I don't have enough money for retirement, and I am scared shitless. I'm going to be honest with you. And I have more than most people will ever have, but I have nothing in the grand scheme of things. And that's the reality. People save nothing. And like, I'm taking a dump in my pants over it. I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm probably going to be okay because somehow they all end up okay. But
most of them, you don't. I don't think that people talk about the horror stories of retirement enough.
Well, I mean, hell, dude, you can get a tent, live in a big city in the U.S., and get your food funded, your medical covered. I mean, so shit. What am I worried about? But I'm still worried. So I don't know, man. I feel like I'm playing beat the clock, and we're going to talk about that in an upcoming video, as you know. That's where I'm at, dude.
Yeah, so I have my percentage it was almost 100% weight for a pretty long time, and then I got into the numismatics, and so now I have things like graded eagles and coin collections. Predominantly, I try to keep them silver, but I have some clad in there. But my thought process behind those is that, a complete set of Merc dimes, is going to be valuable. Almost no matter, assuming the society hasn't collapsed, no matter when you go to sell it. But there are some things that, I've just paid a premium for. But anyone entering into the fray right now, that's just not the way to go. You're behind the curve. Like, okay, let's take you, for example. You said you started stacking in like 08, 09. There's a reason. Aside from anything else that may have been going on, the financial system was in crisis, and you kind of saw that. And
you know what though? Not to cut you off, but I wasn't even that smart then, honestly, dude. all I knew back then, and Frostbite and I did a video on his channel. Go check it out. Like that was one of the most fun videos I ever did. He wanted me to share my story, and I got 100% candid, honest, and raw. All I knew back then was that, hey, I'm a dumbass. I have no money. Silver's shiny, gold is shiny. I need some, and it kind of grew from there. Like truly, that's absolute truth. And it stemmed back from my childhood because I learned something from my old man, and that's really how I got started. And I knew nothing. I was overpaying for things I shouldn't have paid. And you told me something. You were the one to tell me this, and you were right. You said the first market in the metals that's going to be under attack in an economic failure is numismatics, because people are going to have less money. And you're right. And that's why I'm happy that I ended up being a weight stacker, but I've kind of gravitated toward the collectibles as well. But if I was to start again today, I would do it the same way. I would buy more weight first to get a base stack. But how much base stack should one have? I mean, I want it all. I don't want yours, but I want it all. You know what I'm saying? Because how much is enough? Dude, I don't know. You know, that video you did, okay, about Dave Ramsey in 1992, how much was $1,000 when he wrote that book compared to today? What was it? $1,000 in 92 is 2021 today, right? What, dollar wise?
Yeah, 2,100. Yeah.
So I've always said someone has to retire with $1 million, no debt, and preferably a paid off house, and at least an income of Social Security or 401k or pension, whatever. But what's that mean by the time I retire? I'm 42 years old. What am I going to need? 3, 4, 5 million? I mean, where does it end? It's scary.
Well, it doesn't end with the money printer going burr the way they're about to continue. And the scariest thing about that is that if you look around and verify the information, what it was something like, and I may be wrong in my statement here, but it was something like 80% of all the money in existence was printed during the pandemic. Maybe not 80, but it was astronomically high.
And 70% of the total currency ever printed is overseas. So when they dump our dollar in the BRICS nations, we're boned.
We're going to have a whole bunch of worthless paper.
When it comes home, we're boned with inflation. Boned. No lube, just we're boned.
What do you think the end game is here? Like, if you had to, so knowing what we know today, banks are failing. More, as you pointed out earlier, by Moody's have just been downgraded, which they, in the 2008 movie from The Big Short, they actually did a piece there where, obviously it's a movie, but they, candidly said in the film, like, basically, if we don't give the companies, the mortgage companies in this case, and the banks, the ratings that they want on these loans, they'll just go to our competitors. And so they basically alluded to they're fixing the price. So if in this case they have said they have reached the breaking point and can no longer lie about the ratings of some of these banks, that means we're way past. And I had said multiple times in other videos and live streams that the government always goes too far. Like when they're trying to fix these things like the economy or just whatever, they always push it past the point that they need to. And I think in this case, we're not even done with the rate hikes yet. The best case scenario. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The best case scenario is we stop the rate hikes for a bit, but they're not done. Like, it is undoubtedly going to get worse. And I think the people here are like, oh, they might not raise rates. And so they think they're about to pivot. They're not done. They're not going to pivot. Inflation is still way high. Like, we are in a perfect storm of economic failure, and nobody sees it.
Can I share something with you and Frostbite and everyone watching this now and in the future? Because I really would like to.
Go ahead.
for some reason, I'm not a big mainstream media supporter, and even the mainstream media is pushing the narrative of bank failures, possibly to push CBDC. That concerns me. But 60 Minutes came out and or republished something on YouTube the other day that came up in the algorithm in my feed. In fact, I don't want to misspeak, so I'm going to look this up right now. I want to give you guys the accurate title of the video, and I want to encourage every one of you to watch it because I learned a lot. Okay, so if you go to YouTube and type in 60 Minutes bank failure, the first video that comes up, it says, "What does the FDIC do when your bank fails?" 2009 60 Minutes archive. They re-uploaded it 2 days ago. We can learn a lot from this. It is scary. Okay, the gentleman who was interviewing the head of, or one of the FDIC members, said, "How many banks failed last year?" She said 25. How many do you guys remember hearing about in 2009? 3? Four?
God, I forget the big Lehman Brothers.
Yep.
Failed.
Yep. Was it Goldman Sachs? Was that one of them? No, it wasn't.
No, I don't think they failed. They're still,
but it was like 3 or 4 that were like public, right?
The big ones, yeah.
So what are we at now? 2 or 3 that we're being told about. So how many have really failed that we're not aware of? And then it goes on to talk about what the FDIC, their 3 options in the event of a bank failure is, what they do, what they normally do, what they can do. It's scary. I think everybody should watch that because history, Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. History repeats and rhymes, in my opinion.
It's a bad rapper. So did you, I'm going to miss my point here because I was going to say, okay, I lost it. I had a point, but I lost it. Frostbite, you're up.
Way to pass on the torch.
Well, when it comes to bank failures, I mean, there's stuff that happens every day that we're not aware of, right? And that's one of the, if you really want to talk about information, the real power, the real issue there is, where's the information? Do we have all the information? There's so much stuff that happens behind the scene that we probably don't even have a really good picture of where we're at. You got to be stooped in the financial market to really have a good understanding of what's going on in that individual sector. Now, with that being said, 3 major banks failing within a specific industry, is that something to be concerned about? Yeah, but my question is always, what are they deviating the story? What story are they deviating? Right, this is a big deal. The Fed's going to do this. They're going to be looking at information. They've already talked about potential. It's like it was already scripted out, so to speak. Right. I'm not saying it was scripted to that extent, but what's the real story here? So I'm asking, what am I missing? What is it about this story? What is it about what's going on? What am I missing? And unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I agree.
I think I know. No, I think I know the answer. And this one may not be as distractive as everybody thinks. We have been speculating over these CBDCs for a while now. And in the pandemic, they started the pilot program, and it was so nuanced that people couldn't even tell if it was real or not. I remember even stackers and people that are watching things develop couldn't even come to a consensus early on as to whether or not these pilot programs were even real. Like, some people had said some stuff about them, their secret pilot programs going, and they're running tests and blah, blah, blah at a few select banks. But at first, nobody could even verify that was even real. Well, now we know they are. And that they have, I mean, I hate to say it, and we all speculated how long it was going to take for them to try to roll these things out. And I think the answer to that is now apparent. How do you stop? Because what's going to happen is a bunch of people are going to lose their money. Maybe not private citizens right now. But I think we can all agree that this is going to be more widespread than just the banks that have been listed so far that we've seen. There's going to be more. We just don't know how much yet. Some individuals are going to lose some form of their retirements and other things that are out there, because think about that. If you've actually retired, chances are, to my understanding, at least some portion of that money is no longer sitting in an actual 401k. You've withdrawn from it. Yeah. And so you have some in there, maybe, but that's affected by the stock market. And even now in this situation, there's only so many things that are, not going down by leaps and bounds every day. So you've likely tried to mitigate your losses by moving that out and withdrawing it and putting it somewhere in, say, like a bank, where you now run the risk of it not, maybe it's above the FDIC insurance limit. And also, if the bank failures continue the way that we think they are going to, then at some point they're going to run out of money in that FDIC insurance program. And I think there's been a lot of financial people and stackers and different people stating that's fairy dust. Like, yes, a couple people might get their money back, but like if it ever really fails on a widespread scale, they don't have that money to give back to every single person. So if you look at that, once people are affected, like where your dad or your mom or whoever lost everything due to these bank failures, and then they rush in with the superhero savior of CBDCs, there can't be a run on the bank if there's no cash to withdraw. So just keep your money in the system and everything will be fine. This will fix everything. So I really think, unfortunately, it's not what any of us want to hear, but I think that's the end game to this scenario, is they're going to rush in and go, oh, hey, well, we piloted this and we tested it and everything's fine.
Here's the
CBDC. It works perfectly. Everybody wants to talk about crypto like they're trying to blame it in one breath, but then they're starting their own, essentially, with CBDCs on the other breath. And so if you looked at it, crypto actually went up. Like they were trying to blame the bank failures on, they were heavily invested in crypto and these things. They tried to make that narrative at first. Didn't work. Everybody sees the dollar going down. They're putting their money anywhere else that they think, and that's crypto, that's physical, that's assets. People, I know real estate investors that are buying whatever houses they can right now because they see that here in like a year or two, if this gets really bad, nobody's going to sell unless they're absolutely forced to. And then, that market's going to look horrible for probably just about everybody. But they're buying whatever they can right now because they just want to get their money into anything else than sitting in a bank or an investment account. So a physical asset, something like a house or physical metals or whatever, looks a lot more promising than, what's going on today. Now, I remembered while you guys were talking and Frostbite was rambling on there. I said rambling. I don't mean it that way. But while he was going on, I remembered in my head the point. SVB has been shitting bricks in their board meetings for over a year. Okay? Over a year. That has come out now. They have been sweating bullets because they knew they were in trouble for over a year. And it's just now coming out. They pushed it to the point of complete collapse and failure. So if they're doing that, and remember, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? So if everyone wants to be like, oh, well, this bank did that and that bank did that, they're all doing it. It's just how leveraged are they? How much risk were they willing to take on? As we learned in 2008, 2009, nobody could really walk away from that and go, oh, glad we didn't, get in those mortgage-backed securities and do all that speculative stuff with those assets. We're good. No, everybody was guilty. So the same thing's probably going to come out 10, 15, 20 years from now, where they go, oh, yeah, like pretty much everybody was doing this thing. And now, a few people got really caught, but everybody was at risk. And I think that's going to be the larger story here, is because they never learn. They always try to find loopholes, and this seems to be what they've been doing recently.
They never learn, and neither do the people, and we don't hold them accountable.
Crisis.
What was that, Frostbite?
I said, you remember the whole Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac thing?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that was because they were doing all this crazy stuff with these loans and, mortgaging people out to whatever. And then they were having these crazy interest rates where overnight your interest rate went from like 3.6% to 19.5. Right. Because it was so open that you could just pull all this crazy crap. I mean, now granted, legislation and stuff come around to protect you from that now, but still.
Somewhat, but they still exist. You can go get an adjustable rate mortgage right now. I knew a buddy who right there in like 2007, when I think we had there was a bit of a market crash. And I was talking to him, and he was talking about his house and this and that. And he was on a 15-year adjustable rate. And I followed up with him later when the housing crash really started to happen, because I was, concerned for this guy I knew. And luckily, he had just paid it off right before the SHTF really hit. And, he was thankful, but like, we kind of talked about it jokingly at that point, knowing he was in the clear, like how much of a bullet he dodged. He goes, yeah, I looked at it after the fact. He goes, my payments could have gone up by 300%. Like there's no way I would be able to pay that.
I've got to jump out of here, fellas. I've got someone coming by, but can I touch on a few things before I make my exit?
Go ahead.
What you said about the FDIC, they have been pretty candid as far as they will be, about the fact that they only have a certain amount of quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, you can't see it, money to cover the depositors. Where's the rest come from? Insurance, taxpayers, which will inflate the shit out of our cash. Number one. And they'll do it. They'll print their way out of it. God knows when that ends. And Show Me Stacker said in the chat, weren't some of the banks that fell invested heavily, if not mostly, based on their political beliefs, not a good business strategy? 100%. The way people act, their business dealings, their morals, really comes down to their politics. It really, truly does, in my opinion. And you got take B of A, okay? You got B of A writing high risk mortgages and creating bank derivatives to minorities for mortgages just because they're minorities, because they're leftists. Okay. Who cares? Who cares what color someone's skin is, what gender they are, how they identify, whatever. Who's qualified, who's not? That's purely political based. That's what banks do. They put their money into, or they put our cash into things like mortgage-backed securities, U.S. bonds, treasuries, things like that, based on where they think things are going to go. It's all politics. So absolutely. That's all I got.
And if you think about it, that's not supposed to come into play at all in the loan application of any kind process, or especially housing, right?
No, but B of A's been open about it. They're like, yeah, we're going to fund minority-based mortgages. Why don't you fund qualified-based mortgages regardless? I mean, it's all politics with banks, all of it.
Yeah,
All
the
disagree.
pendulum swings and it swings too far the other way.
Never
I'd
lands
like
in the
to
middle.
think eventually we'll find a balance, but
We
it
haven't yet.
might take too long.
We haven't yet. And how long have we been around? I mean, the pendulum always belongs in the middle, and it never lands there for long, does it?
No.
I'm out of here, guys. I got to go. I got a buddy coming over. Thank you for the live. Frostbite, good to see you. Enter my God. Everyone watching, enter my God. Please like this friggin' video. Go check out my last video, the video before my last video about my LCS. Y'all, it hit over 7,000 views. It's still going. For me, I'm a small channel. That's viral. I've had one video do 3,000 views. I can't believe it. I'm on cloud 9. People are amazing. It brought out the trolls. Fuck them. You can edit that out. Hell with them. You know, that's awesome. It's still growing. I got a guy coming up. Pay attention. Please hit the like button on all of our videos. Frostbite's videos, Matt's videos, my videos. Show the support. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we can say whatever we want. We can do this. But if you guys aren't participating, it doesn't mean much. We're not getting the message out. There's no support. You guys can spend your time anywhere you want, and the fact that you spend it with us is phenomenal. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that we really appreciate it. Am I wrong, fellas?
No, seriously.
Yeah,
you guys have no idea. Like these people have no idea what it means. I mean, to me, as a quote unquote YouTube creator, I mean, I don't even know if I've earned that title, but like, I can't tell you what it means to me. I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
I don't make videos, and I know Stack gets the same way, just to appease my own interest. I do it to help, right? I do it to share information. If I learn something, I want people to understand it. If I hear something, and I mean, good grief, I've been wrong and had to make videos retracting and explaining where I was wrong, and walk through everything that goes on and say, hey, this is where we're at. But it's about family, it's about community, and it's about making sure that we have each other's backs. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't have each other's backs, no one does.
Right.
And that's ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, it's a learning process. I think we're all on this journey together, and it's constantly changing. So, just like the stacking videos, like you see it over the years. I mean, everybody has with people that have been around long enough, like Sal and Silver Dragons and different people, that every couple of years they kind of start remaking the same videos because the information has changed. So, I mean, it's constant learning. It's constant adaptation to your stack, to your processes, to your planning, to the amount that you stack. I mean, even me right now, I have other things being in the real estate side that I'm really going to have to focus on. And so I'm not investing as much currently in metals. I'm still buying them, but I'm just not buying them at the rates and in the volumes that I was before. So, I mean, it's constantly changing, and it's different for everybody. That video that you think, everybody already knows this, or nobody's going to be able to use this because they're too busy buying, X, Y, and Z. No, some guy is out there looking for that video and nobody's made it yet. Or somebody just had to change up their strategy to what you were thinking that video is useless about. Like there's always somebody, and some have a further reach than others. But whether we get 50 views on a video or 5,000, like some people, it's
right. Like 3,000 once, 2,000 once, and 7,000 once. Come on now, out of 91 or something.
Average. But the point is that it's just a confirmation that what we're doing matters. I mean, new channels very rarely hit 1,000 subs constitutional. So I don't know what the number is, but it's very low. Like, it's less than like 10% of all YouTube channels that get started actually reach 1,000 subs. So just rest assured that you're actually a creator now, regardless of what you may or may not think, and that you've already hit milestones that some channels dream of and never attain. So you're in good company, I assure you, and it's well deserved.
And you know what's funny about that? The only reason, in my personal opinion, that people really ever found me was because, so within my first month or two of creating videos with a crappy old phone, this guy showed up in my algorithm, and this is not my first channel. This is the first channel that ever became anything. But we all have a Google account, so we all have a channel. And my other channel has 175 subs, like 25 videos, and the information was right, but the content sucked because of the way it was delivered. And I never saw him on that channel, and I watched nothing but stacking stuff and fitness stuff. And one day on this channel, I'm making with a crappy camera, and I'm making content, and I'm starting to get views. I'm like, what's up with that? I see this guy named Savage Stacker. I'm like, who's this guy? And he's been around for like 4 years, right? And I never even knew who he was, which is crazy. And I commented on a couple of his videos, and I'm like, this guy's going to mention me, and he did. And it's because of what he did that anyone knows who I even am. And people overall have responded really well to me. And I try to do that for other people because I know exactly what it's like to be just some dude putting out just something because you feel like you need to spread some message that's important to you and you want to help somebody, and nobody watches. Nobody, I know what that's like. So I really have tried to reach out to smaller channels. Dude, I remember Silver and Cigars. He had like 50 subs. I'm like, hey, you got to check this guy out. Mellow Stacks, what, 50 subs, 60 subs? I'm like, this guy, 30 maybe? Check this guy out. I mean, look how they've grown. Someone did it for me, and that's all I want to do is do it for other people that are putting stuff out that I think are phenomenal at what they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can tell a lot about anybody in their success, right? And I think it was on another Joe Rogan podcast where I saw this. They were talking about comedy, but they said you could really tell, like, when the established people didn't have time for you and the established people were like inclusive and brought you up and would shout you out and like try to give you tips and tricks and things like that. They said you can really identify the people who not only appreciate their success, but remember the journey to get there. And so that's a very important part. The door does not close behind you when you break through it. You invite other people in. Don't be.
That is why I like Elevate Metal, because he's not greedy like the big channels.
Some of them, yeah.
Yep. Fellas, right. I gotta go. Frostbite. Everyone in the chat. Canadian Silver Seeker, I got something for you, buddy. I've got a great video coming up for your shout out video, and I've got a killer title. I don't know how it's gonna do in the algo, but we're gonna find out. I'm going to put a spin on your name in the title. It will be the next video that drops. I promise you. I told you. You showed up here because I told you I'd mention you. Go sub to his channel. And if you don't, you will after I drop the video about Canadian Silver Seeker. I got to go. Frostbite, good to see you. I apologize. I apologize. I forgot to send you that email. I was sending so many, but you got the message. Please enter.
It's all good. We'll do.
If you guys can all do me one more favor.
What's
everybody?
That? Keep stacking.
Keep stacking. Yeah. Thanks, fellas.
Take it easy.
Love you guys. Later.
All right, Frostbite. So, what are your thoughts on what do we look like a year from now with this financial crisis? What do you think we will see transpire in the next calendar year?
Give me something specific. Are you talking about?
I mean, do you think we'll see more failures in the banking sector? Do you think, money's going to go burr? Like, how much of an effect do you think this is going to have on the overall economy of, I guess, America and the global economy that we've now created?
failure in the banks is inevitable. We're at the tipping point. Now, I can't tell you, I'm not a financial guru. I am I'm just above money stupid when it comes to understanding how the markets work together. I am observant. I am educated. I pay attention. I read. I don't take people's analysis and say, "Oh, that must be what it is."
Right.
But when you look at the ebb and flow historically throughout the decades, we have good decades and we have bad decades. And what matters is, what is the agenda? What are we trying to push? And if we don't get our house in order, it's going to fall. The comment that I made in chat earlier, joking, is that, and I can't remember who it was. It was long before I came into the stream, but it was about building it out of a house of cards. And my comment is, yeah, and they're building it with water-based glue, and the storm's coming.
Well,
So it seems like, hey, they're shoring things up pretty well, but it's a facade. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
well, we're what? Last time I checked, I think we're like 26 or 27 trillion dollars in debt as a country. And it astounds me that nobody has come in and rationally said, like, I would rather us force hard times on ourselves in the ways that we hopefully collectively choose than them to be forced upon us by outside forces. So, like, I can't believe that nobody is looking at this. Like, as much as I want to, reinvigorate the space program and continue, America's charitable nature, across the world, and continue to help try to resolve, horrific conflicts. Like, I think a lot of that really needs to be spread across everyone. Don't let atrocities happen. Don't let people starve. But sadly, I see this division, and it's always been there, but it's getting to be more and more. I was eating breakfast at the hotel, I think today, the last few days, but I think it was this morning. I'm in like the Chicago area, so the hotel has that kind of news on, and they were talking about something that I couldn't even believe it's on the news with everything else going on, but they were talking about, we were flying some drone, right? Somewhere where, of course, we claim we have the sovereignty to fly international waters. I want to say it was like the Black Sea. We're flying.
You're in the Black Sea.
Yeah, and so the Russians came by with some jets, and like they were, I guess, like toying with it or whatever. But if it's international space, and everybody's free to be there, theoretically, there's no harm, no foul. But apparently, like, they were toying with it. They claim they dinged into it. One fighter dropped fuel on it. These are the things that are said. But in the midst of everything happening, like, I watched that news of them trying to talk about this, and they're drumming up the war drums. Like, oh, well, they pissed on our drone. We can't let that happen. And I guess, and this was the funny part, they claim, of course, the Russians claim they didn't hit the drone. Of course, we claim they did. But they said in the broadcast that we chose to crash the drone, like to just no, we're not gonna do this or whatever, and they intentionally grounded it in the Black Sea, and then are getting mad at the Russians for them saying, yeah, we're going to try to recover the $35 million drone that you just put into the bathwater. Like, yeah, we're going to pick it back up and see what we can find on. Why would they not? You know, that's like, you know, there were arguments about people, you know, making the decisions to leave military equipment when we exit places, and we're leaving them more well armed than they were to begin with. And the same can be said here. Like, if you chose to ground the drone, don't be mad because somebody else is going to pick it up. You abandoned it. And so, like, with everything going on in the financial news,
Our story, they also said that. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. In the story, what else did they say?
They just said that they said basically that anything, I'm trying to remember how they said it, anything that is of value was probably, air quotes, destroyed. So
they hope, right? Well, at least though they have the I don't know. Well, what we gave? Hold on. Well, let's run it up. We gave one to Iran, right? Like they shot it down or something, and then recovered it. I think I'm pretty sure that's the case. Like I know we lost one doing something we probably shouldn't have been doing, and they knocked it out of the air and recovered it. They were, I think we even asked for them to return it. Like that's how you want to talk about privilege as a country. I feel like in this situation where we ground our own drone in the Black Sea and then we're going to get mad at somebody else for picking up the garbage. I mean, I'm surprised the environmentalists aren't all over that. You're dumping aviation fuel and whatever else into the Black Sea just because you didn't want to fly it home or whatever. It's just a mess. And with everything else going on, like I guess it bothered me. Somebody stated that there's no one person in control anymore. And I mean, that's always been the case by design, but nobody knows the whole story. And I think that's evident when you see things like this going on. Like the banking system is in not quite free fall yet, but definitely in serious trouble. And we, as the general public, have no idea how it really is, and we'll be told later, maybe. But you have that going on, and then you have we're flying drones like in the heat of whatever else is going on over there. We're still poking the bear and doing all this. Like just because you can do a thing like doesn't necessarily mean you should. Like yes, could we fly a drone over there and not officially do anything wrong, but probably provoke some kind of response by the Russians? Like yeah, but like, doesn't it seem like we have some other things to focus on? Like, it just seems like one hand is pushing things in one direction and another hand is trying to hold back the floodgates in another. And it's just so bad. I don't know what we're doing as a country anymore. And I don't even know, there's no single place to point as far as like where the failure is. I almost think it's systemic at this point.
Well, again, we crossed political bounds a while ago, but my whole take on this is, fix what's broke at home.
Try to,
you
right?
know what I mean? So if you have, you have 10 fingers, and if you have your 10 fingers in all these holes, and something else happens, what are you going to do? I mean, take off your shoe and try to stick your big toe in it, right? Now, not only are you standing there looking like a fool, but you're unbalanced, right? Because now you're trying to do something that's not, quote unquote, a natural position. So if you're spread so thin in all these different areas, whether it be, and again, I'm not against helping people or helping nations that are poor or
Right.
doing stuff, but one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. We support one only to have them turn. And again, you look at regimes, we build one up and then we have to tear it back down 30, 40, 50 years later. Saudi Arabia ran into that when we, built and maintained some of the guerrillas to fight against the Russians in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, again, it's one of those things where, you have to take care of your own. Now, where does that go financially? I don't have the answers to that. I don't know. But we really need to start taking care of what's home. We
Right.
need to, and you were talking about that debt clock. It's like 31 trillion.
Oh God, it's 31 now?
Yeah. And if anybody doesn't know that, you can actually Google the debt clock. Just actually enter the debt clock, and then it'll be the very first one. The national debt clock will come up, and it'll give you the debt clock in real time. So U.S. national debt is 31.6 trillion. The federal spending is at $6 trillion with federal budget deficit at 1.4 trillion. When you're looking at some of the other debts, the U.S. total national debt's 94 trillion. That's unfunded debt, interest, and all that other stuff that we owe. It's just unfreaking real when you look at the amount of money. And if I had a fan in my house that turned this quick, I wouldn't need AC.
Right. I mean, and yeah, I can remember when it first came out, the website, and it's gotten more complex, obviously, in that time frame. But like when it first came out, it was very similar to what it is now. But I remember back then thinking it was like, astronomical, and it just keeps going and going and going. I don't know how long it's been up, but I know it's been up for like over a decade, I want to say. And how far can we continue? I guess what it is like, I don't get the idea that nobody has called, bullshit on the whole system yet. Like, I literally don't get it. Government spending and all these plans just keep coming up, and every year there's new initiatives and this and that, and there are some cuts and things, but it never ever equals out. It's pretty sad when it would be good to have somebody that's just breaking even, and nobody, like the people, the institutions, like nobody is being like, hey, we're in trouble here. Like, we got to do something. No, like, and there's no way out. And I have no idea what anyone is thinking about. Everybody talks about the whole climate change, and whether you believe in it or you don't, I don't care. But if you're that concerned about the world, the physical world that you're going to leave to the next generation and subsequent generations, how can you not look at the financial aspect and go, we're spending more than we make month over month, year over year, and we have been for who knows how many decades. I mean, I think somewhere maybe the late 80s, early 90s was when it started getting really bad. And I think sometimes somewhere after that was like where the debt clock website came from, maybe in the mid 90s, I want to say. But like, that's when like the smart people were kind of becoming concerned, like, hey, wait a minute, we might have a problem here. But we've been at it for decades. at this point, just spending more than we have. And we tell people not to do that by not over leveraging credit and these things, but nobody's saying anything to the government about this cycle that we're on. And I just don't know how we ever are going to get out of it.
Unfortunately, the real answer is the scary one. They just reset. That's what scares me. They just
You think like it's like a complete financial reset, like the entire system?
yeah, like look at the pound and the euro, right? So when you look at kind of what they tried to do, where they tried to take that the pound and make it a British currency or that EU currency, but on a global scale. I don't know how it would look. I've heard people discuss, and again, this whole digital currency thing all plays a part of that. But again, there's so much involved that I don't know. I don't know. I wish I was smarter in the realm of this. I wish I had more insights. I didn't even sleep in a Motel 6, so I can't even joke about it. But I think there's going to be a point where they just say, okay, we default. We're going to reset. Is what it is. Here's the new system. Go. And it's going to have catastrophic impacts. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know when that's going to be. But I think that's eventually it's going to have to be what happens.
Yeah, I'm kind of afraid that you're probably right. I mean, whether it's a digital currency or something else, they're going to have to at some point kind of, I don't even know if it's possible, but to like wipe the slate clean, if that's even feasible. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, we owe so much money to other countries at this point,
Well,
who knows what that would look like.
That's exactly right. And literal vampire potbelly goblins. I love your name, by the way. Says that we've given Ukraine $100 billion. I mean,
$100 billion?
Think about that dollar amount, right? I mean, okay.
Jeez.
What's is it, it's like, where did we borrow it from? We don't have it. So
why we just print it? I mean, it's so funny. You can print money. I was going to make a short about this, but I don't know the legal ramifications. But I was going to scan a bill, Photoshop it, and just, jokingly make the printer print, sheets with bills on it. Like, that's what they're doing. I mean, it's crazy that they can print it, but for us it's illegal. But for them it's okay because we say so. Like, but we don't have the power to stop them from doing it, but they have the power to stop us. It's crazy.
It is. And I'm going to show you, this was something I did. I was joking with a friend of mine. And I'm gonna put this up here. Okay. Now, actually, I need to do this. So I'm going to share my screen. Actually, you know what? I won't do that. I'll just put it in chat. Okay.
Okay.
So this is how they print money. Okay. See that number?
Not yet, but I may have a lag.
That's how they print money.
They just add a zero.
Essentially, that's all they're doing.
Yeah, move
Especially
the
in a digital realm. So it's kind of one of these things where, you know, it's all binary. It's all ones and zeros. It's on or off. And so if now granted they print physical money to offset the digital allotment that they've given themselves, but when they say, okay, we're going to do this $200 billion deal, that's not, it's just a number. It's just a zero somewhere. It's just, that's all they've turned on.
Do you think it'll get worse with digital currencies coming in? I mean, I can't imagine that it wouldn't if it's this easy to manipulate now, and there's a physical cost to, say, you know, physically printing. Then I can't imagine once we go partial or fully digital that they're not just gonna do it, and then we won't even know. They won't even say anything. We'll have to feel the effects before we know something has changed.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, there was a movie about this that I cannot remember. But there was a movie, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. It had, I can't remember. Anyway, the thing that scares me about digital currency is, you know, you see people like Elon Musk that are like, you know, I'll have a chip implanted in my head, or you know, in your hand, and you can touch something. Damn it, what's that movie? Elysium?
Elysium?
It's the one, it's the future with Matt Damon, where he's got all these robotic prostatectomies things on. Prostatectomy is actually something that you get as you know, if you're having prostate cancer. Prosthetics.
Oh yeah, Elysium. Yeah,
yeah. And so, but they have these things that they put into your brain, and you know, you scan your whatever, they scan your number and you get these credits, and you know, you wave your code across this and it tells you how much money you have and all that kind of stuff. That shit scares the hell out of me.
Or like China's social credit system where they can debit you for littering based on CCTV camera footage and your mobile information, and knowing you were here at this time and we saw somebody throw trash on the ground, so we fined you 50 yuan for your offense in littering. You know, like that kind of thing. Like the idea that you get the speeding ticket while you're speeding.
Oh no, it comes out as soon as they take your picture. I mean,
yeah.
So again, I mean, you know, and I'm not a doomsdayer. But there's some stuff that just makes me go, you know, Gene Roddenberry, science fact is science fiction 10 years ago.
Right. And actually there's studies now that have equated the development of technology to science fiction. So what we try to create is what we can imagine. And so that what we physically create ends up being a version of what we can imagine. I mean, look at your smartphone. It's essentially and pretty damn close to like a tricorder, right? And Tracy makes a good comment in the chat. She said, won't digital currency make it possible for the powers that be to be able to turn our money off if they don't like something we've done? And
they can do that now.
Well, to a degree, but
No,
there's still
no, no, no,
cash
no.
and things. Well, yes, they can freeze your bank accounts.
You can freeze currency. You can freeze assets. You can make it to you can't even take a shit in the woods. If they
But
want to shut you down, they shut you down.
yeah, but that
That's
takes a little more work right now. I think what she's alluding to is the ease of them literally just, I don't know. Matt made a YouTube video that made us look bad. And not only have we taken down the video, but we've turned off his account. And now I'm SOL. Like I have no money. I think that's what and China's, to my knowledge, already has, if not that power, a very similar one. The same thing can be said about Russia. I mean, over there, like I think you're more worried about your life, from what I'm told. Speculatively, that if you're a serious political dissenter, that you disappear, and they make those things happen. And so
Yeah.
I think on our side, we're more concerned with yes, the financial, but I think that stuff happens all the time. Like, look, when the pandemic started, how I found out about it was I was hearing back internet, rumblings of them welding apartment gates and doors shut so that people couldn't get out of their apartment buildings because it was the infection had already started spreading or whatever. It was like something out of a science fiction movie. And I'm like, wait a minute, that, I remember the first couple ones that I read, I was like, oh, that's got to be an exaggeration or things. But as things progressed, it turned out to likely not be an exaggeration at all. And so, you see those things and you're like, okay, so they will really do, in some cases, whatever they feel like they're allowed to do. And that's where I think people across the world, no matter what government you're under, are kind of battling with right now is how much say do we really have? How much of whatever can we really go against and still keep our faculties intact? And the pandemic was one that was a very good example of that, where you had people with legitimate concerns, or doctors with legitimate points of view, and all of these other venues of dissent that were kind of coming out during all of the developing information, and they were silenced. They were taken off of Twitter. We found that out through some of the Elon Musk disclosures that have come out once he's taken over. That is the scary part, that they do these things because at the time, number one, they think it's in our best interest, which is debatable, and then two, because they think somehow they have the right to do it. And I think there's some quote, I won't even try. I'm long for the day and already kind of tired, but there's a quote that says, I'd rather have a man that's doing something wrong, that knows it's wrong, above me, or doing a thing to me, than a man doing something wrong that thinks he's right. And so that's the danger there. People, I guess that honor amongst thieves, people that know they're doing something wrong but are doing it anyway, you can almost kind of respect. But somebody that's doing something wrong that will not and cannot be told that they're doing something wrong is a whole nother battle to kind of fight, because they think they're correct. And I think that's where we find ourselves, with the government and everyone over us, we're trying to find that balance. Like, yeah, we get to vote, but does the presidency really make active policy decisions anymore? Like, I think like people are really starting to question that. Like, what was it? What Trump? Yeah, even then, like he got banned off Twitter, and I don't know if it was justified or whatnot, but everybody at the time was talking about it. When you have this independent company or whatever they are, Twitter silencing the leader of the free world because they don't like what he's saying, like who really holds the power? And I think that's where everybody's struggling right now. Like, who holds the power? How much of a say do we have? And if we do want to do something about anything, what do we do? What recourse do we have? And sadly, I don't have a lot of answers to any of those. And I don't think there are any definitive answers that can lead to meaningful change at this point. It's almost like everyone keeps talking about unleashing AI, right? Now that we have the chat GPT and these things, and everyone's speculating what that's going to look like. I argue we already created one, with these governments that we've, put into power, and no one person's really running the thing. It's kind of its own animal at this point. And if we all decided tomorrow that it was corrupt, like unanimously, everyone just knows it's bad, we got to stop it, how would you? Could you? Those are the questions. So, like, I feel more and more like earlier, like what I said, like we're all on the same boat. Like, do we want to sink it? Can we sink it? Like, who knows? Like, but our trying to save ourselves might mean our own destruction. I don't know. It gets existential, and I know I'm rambling, but I think you get the idea. Like, what can we even do at this point to stop them printing money like it's going out of style? I don't even think we can.
So I want to kind of build on something that you said. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Milgram shock experiment. Are you familiar with that? That
Not
study
on-
that was done in 1961. Adolf Eichmann wanted to ask the question about, could the atrocities that happened in Nazi Germany with the millions and millions of Jews and the accomplices that all the Nazi people had, could it be tied to just people following orders? And
Oh yeah,
what
yeah.
was
I think
found
we do
out
know this one.
that was that if you put somebody in a room and you went through and you just did this, that they would stop at a certain point, but they would take it a little bit further. But if you gave them a lab coat and you told them that it was their job to do this, don't pay attention to what they're doing. People are going to fool you. They're going to try and do whatever. You just do this test and you do what you need to do. People would go all the way up until the point to where they would kill people. Even people that they pulled off the street would take it to the point to where the shock experiment, they would take it to many, many levels. And so when you talk about this machine that we're in, so all of us know this is, you said all of us at the same time would realize that this one we have to change. But who's the one that actually makes the decision? So in a global consensus, I don't know any time in history short of, well, in the US, short of maybe 9/11, where we've come together on a unified basis. But then again, how much of that is propaganda? How much of that was misdirection? How much of that was other stuff engaged? I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theory end.
Right,
There's
right.
a lot of it tied to.
But isn't it sad that that's what it takes?
When you look at that, what can you do?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, look at World War II. We didn't want anything to do with it. The government couldn't sell it to the American people until Pearl Harbor happened. And then, we were all about getting involved in, seeking, revenge or whatever you want to consider that, aspect. But before then, that's the reason why we didn't get into the war. The American people were completely against it. That's over there. They can handle it, and let somebody else kind of figure that out. We're good over here was the general consensus. And they could not get the American people on board with any decisive action until Pearl Harbor. And it's sad that, and I don't know. I don't know if it's one or the other. If it takes that for us to, look through boundaries and differences and things and come together, or if, like, they always try to sell, like, oh, the true American spirit, and and all of these things. Is it that, or is it like we only really come together when we've been pushed so far that it's almost unavoidable? And so you can kind of see the same thing, even like Vietnam, which that one, I think, again, don't quote me, I almost want to say it's been utterly proven that what was it, the Gulf of Tonkin, I think they said there was like something that transpired. Again, I'm no historian, but whatever that was, I think it's been pretty much proven that was like some kind of farce at this point. To some degree, there was some, faculties that were at play, and the story was not true. And so, but nobody, it's weird because it's like the truth seems to come out far enough into the future where, I mean, for lack of a better term, like, nobody's really held accountable. Like, you hear that.
One of my favorite lines, and I use this all the time, not because of the movie. If I like the movie was great. I really enjoyed it. But because of two lines that were in this movie that ring really true, and they play a really paramount point to what you're talking about. Men in Black. You remember when Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are sitting on the park bench? Tommy Lee Jones is talking to him about, people can handle this, the alien situation, people know. And Tommy Lee Jones looks over at Will Smith and says, a person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. And so when you get a bunch of people together with what they believe is a common goal, you can get them to do damn near anything. Now, the other line in that movie is 500 years ago, we knew the world was flat. Right? 1,000 years ago, we knew we were at the center of the galaxy. Imagine what we'll know tomorrow. And so when you look, and I love both of those lines in that movie, extremely deep, but when you think about the premise, the people are panicking is why these things come together. That's why when we have an event, propaganda tied with very well timed media or discussion or whatnot can motivate a people to do insane things or really good things, right?
Yeah.
You'll look at, let's talk about something that's really good that's happening within our community this coming week. People are going to be pulling together and banding together along with IDA and some other major channels. People are stopping their streams to support St. Jude and a fundraiser to donate money. Right? This is a few people that are going to come together that have a passion about this, and you know what's going on. People come on board and like, oh my God, you know what's going to happen? Coins that are $30, $40 are going to be selling for $1,000.
Well, I don't know about 1,000, but I'm guilty about that.
But here's the thing. Last year, there was a penny. It was a $3 penny that sold for $1,500.
Oh, was there really?
So why is this? Well, because when you're in this environment, people are donating. They have a cause. But why are coin auctions or bullion auctions so popular? You get a bunch of people in the moment get stupid.
Well, no. I like to think most of us.
I'm not knocking anyone who.
No. I get what you're saying. No, I've been there. I've overpaid.
When it happens, and we've all been there. We've all been at an auction where some stupid battle between, and it's fun to watch, right? But you see this 1960 mint set that goes for $400. It's like, you do realize that you can get that on AppMex for $94, right? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I've seen it. Well, and it's the competitive nature. It's who knows, maybe it's something that you need or that you want for and you're right. You get caught up in that moment. And the other factors come into play. And I get that. And I've been at times extremely generous. I remember I was in Flipstream and he had a couple of ancients. And in my opinion, one was better than the other. Just the look of the coin. They always say buy the coin, not the holder. And the grading was slightly better because ancients, they do multiple grades over the coin, or maybe the planchet, the strike, and the condition overall. So it's a little different, but one to me looked better than the other. And so I got into a back and forth. And honestly, this is going to sound insulting maybe to somebody out there. I don't even remember who it was I was bidding against. But we got back and forth, and it it's going up, and it went past where I really thought it probably would, but I really wanted this nice example. And so I overbid it, and I eventually won it. And then the next one came up, and for whatever reason, it was, I want to say it was the same coin, similar coin, from a similar era, if not the same exact coin, just slightly different in the grading. And the coin itself looked, it had a little schmutz on it or whatever. It just wasn't as pristine as the other one. And so I bought the other one because nobody bid on it, and then gave it to the person that I was bidding against. Now, I think it was less than like $150, I think. But it was, it's a substantial amount. And I did that out of, not only did I want the coin that I wanted, but, I really didn't want the other person to walk away with like a sour taste in their mouth. And I think they even like tried to be, to dissuade me a bit and say, no, like, I'm not going to take it. And I kind of put it to you, or we put it up and I give it to the chat and somebody else will win it. And at that point they took it. But I didn't need that coin. I didn't particularly want it. I wasn't looking for it. It was just really nice, really cool. I have some ancients, and for lack of a better term, I got caught up in the moment and I let my emotions kind of run it. So, I mean, I see what you're getting at there. And yeah, like you would hope that when those things happen, they're more on the positive side, like that story, but they can always just as easily be on the negative. Someone, once they pass a certain point, like I know there's been a lot of like, criminals and different people that they'll ask them like, well, why'd you do all this? And they're like, oh, well, I messed up this one thing, or I did this one thing wrong, and then I was about to get caught, and so then I did this, and then I stole a car, and then I ran from the cops, and then and it's just, I just didn't, I was just trying to steal something from the store or whatever. Then it spiraled into this thing.
Right.
Once
The
you
one thing's a
pass
$10
point-
ticket, and then the next one is involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, yeah. Like once you pass a point,
Yeah.
you justify it to yourself as I'm trying to make the best of the situation that I'm in, but then you keep making subsequent bad decisions or affecting other people in negative ways. I mean, it's just as easy. Human nature is so messed up. That's why one of the reasons why I like watching and listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, because he has such just like a variety of people on, and the topics that they cover are just so vast. But it really is. It's like, if somebody's not, like some alien species or somebody, there's got to be somebody watching us. Like, it's got to be the best TV show.
You ever watch Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
I love watching his stuff. He actually got into an argument with Joe Rogan. It's probably one of the funnest ones I've seen because, and I think they've made shorts of it, but in watching the actual item, he was like, we're not that interesting as people. And Joe was like, oh no, we do this, we start wars, and we do all of this. It's like, well, but I mean, if you were intelligent alien life form, you'd be like, these people are like retarded. They kill themselves, they build all this stuff just to destroy each other. They build all this wealth, and then they don't own anything. They don't have anything. They don't share. It's not community. There's no greater good. They're in it to destroy each other. I mean, I love the comment of, to think that the universe is devoid of other life, you're a fool. It may not be humanoid. It may not be what we think it is. But in turn, what if people just don't think we're interesting?
Well, yeah, that's debatable. I mean, there's been stories about like when we passed the nuclear threshold of, theoretical encounters, and there's things on record and things about that seem to point in that direction. But I mean, I feel like eventually we'll know. And then, like always, it seems like once the wool is pulled from over the eyes, we'll find out like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, we've been coming here for thousands of years and just kind of peeking at what you guys are doing, whatever. When we finally do, enter into that realm of life, or maybe it's like another dimension. Like people are talking about that a lot now, like the parallel universes and multi-dimension varieties of the exact world. And like it seems like stuff out of comic books, but now they're saying that there's basis in science for these things being possible. Like it's so crazy. I mean, if you go back 100 years and start telling those people what we're up to now, they'd say you're crazy. And so it seems like that's always the case, except now the timelines are getting closer. Taken to point where like kids now don't know like 90s music, because it's 30 years ago. But when we were kids, we knew all our parents' music because we were exposed to it. Well, now it's not so much that way. You don't get exposed forcibly through TV and radio and your surroundings to what people were exposed to, like when we were kids, to your parents' stuff. Nowadays, there's a bigger separation. So the timelines are getting smaller and smaller because there's so much more information. So, back in the day, you might see like in the 80s, you might see a 1950s car and think like, oh, that's really cool, right? But it's old, like it's from, it's ancient technology by their standards. This car has power windows and that one still got the roll up, whatever. And then now you look at a car with that gap difference and they're not that dissimilar. Like a 2015 car and a 2023 car, aside from a few bells and whistles, really aren't that different. And so those gaps are closing, but the other gaps are widening. It's just very interesting to see how things are progressing as we become more technological and as time progresses.
Well, who would have thought that the computing power that we have on our cell phone would dwarf what it took to send a man to the moon?
And the damn thing still don't work right half the time. That's the concerning thing. Like, how did we ever get somebody to the moon? And these things have all kinds of bugs and issues and things like that. It's crazy to me that, like, I always talk about this with like computers, phones, all of it. We get stronger, more powerful, more RAM, like year over year. By now, these things should be able to do all kind, and they are to some degree, but they still operate slow. They still don't, do X, Y, and Z very well. Like, it seems like every time we push the technological bar, we stuff a bunch of more stuff into it. Like, if you look at your computer, the amount of background processes and things that just run to make the computer run increase year over year over year and revision after revision. Whereas if we had this power on Windows 95, you'd be able to do whatever you wanted. Like, because it wasn't as resource intense as what we have now, but now they throw so much more stuff on it that after a year the computer's running slow. You got to do things to it to speed it back up and mitigate those effects, where I don't know how much technological improvement we've really made, because every time we make some, we stuff more things into it. So it's like we fill the void as quick as we make it.
Yeah. Casey says that the computers and cell phones widen the gap between us and our kids, and I agree. I miss being outside from dawn to dusk.
Well,
Right.
and part of it is it's not even. I thought about this the other day too because I was feeling bad. I have a house with a yard now, and the kids don't go out there often. They go out there, but they don't go out there often. And when they do, it's usually not for It's not like I got to go call them in for dinner, And so I thought about this. That is, I think, more has to do with just general safety. At like kids were getting abducted, things were happening, all this different stuff. And as we grew up as kids, right, every generation tries to get better than the last and improve on what their parents did or didn't do. And a lot of us were like, my parents never knew where the I was. Like, there wasn't a phone to reach me. If I didn't call them, they had no idea. And we all remember pagers came out, and that increased it a little bit. They could beep you, and they wanted to talk to you, and you had to call them back. But and then cell phones slowly, with the actual phone calls, but they didn't know where we were. I mean, I can think of times where I was in other towns, like miles, 20, 30 miles away, once friends had cars and things, or even when I had a bike, I could have been 15 miles from home.
I would routinely ride, and this is something that talking to my mom the other day. Growing up in the mountain states, I had friends that lived 20, 30 miles away, and I would wake up in the morning and I would ride my bike, play with them for half a day, and I would leave at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, because it would take me 2 hours to get home, 2.5 hours to get home. But I would ride round trip 50 to 60 miles every weekend to go play with certain friends.
Yeah.
And, it was like, I look at myself now, and I mean, I've done triathlon, and I've done a number of half Ironmans, and I'm not in shape, but I'm not unhealthy. But it was like, I don't do an ounce of what I used to do as a kid. I mean, I was nonstop all day, every day, doing something. Hey,
Well,
Philip Claiborne, thanks for coming in, bud. How are you?
yeah, and I hope that it swings back the other way. Hopefully, once we have enough technology to where kids can kind of go wherever they want and we can feel safe in knowing that they're going to be okay. I mean, you know what I mean. Kids, I use the term very
Well,
loosely,
we had,
but
Halloween, we had, everybody had to check their candy, right? We would stop because they had candy apples and stuff like that were given out. People would put razor blades in them. It was a whole cyanide scare where people were putting cyanides in those. What are they called? The little hard candies. The
Jolly
candy
Ranchers.
plastic wraps. No, they were like a chalky candy, a really, really, really sweet tarts,
Oh, okay.
right? Smarties.
Okay.
Remember Smarties?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but they would put like cyanide in those. People they would do some really jacked up stuff. So we've had it. The only thing that's different now is that technology has made it more easy and more identifiable at how to find, identify, locate, pin down your quote unquote prey, right? So before they would, they would, it was like crimes of opportunity, right? Now they'll set a kid up and have them go to a certain location, and
Yeah.
then they're there, and that's where they do it. So, and I talked to my kids about this. You're playing these games and stuff. You don't tell people where you're at.
Yeah.
We joked about, okay, well, I live in San Antonio. Good luck finding me.
Well,
You
yeah.
know,
Your
I'm
town's
not going to
probably
tell you
bigger than
exactly
mine.
where I'm at. I'm not going to relay any more information than that. And you get some people like Uncle Sal. Where's Uncle Sal from?
I have no idea.
Ain't nobody know. And it's because there's major security. That
Yeah.
guy's been stacking for 30 some odd years. There are people that you don't do that, but kids need to get outside, right? And one of the things about, like, my youngest son, he'll sit in his bedroom and play games, and it's like, go take your skateboard and go outside. Go do something. Leave. Get
Yeah.
out of the house.
Yeah.
Um,
I get my daughter to paint. And oh, by the way, we did get the painting, and she does have it now. I had to wait. She was at her mom's that weekend, but she loves it, and she was already talking about trying to like put it up and then kind of duplicate it herself just to see how she could do. She was very pleased with the painting.
Outstanding. I'll tell my daughter that. That's one thing. She did one for Mike Panucci,
Oh, okay.
and so did a Marvel scene with Captain America, Thor, and who else was it? Captain America, Thor, and somebody else. I can't remember.
Iron Man.
Yeah, and he was just like, "Holy cow!" And she's a pretty talented artist,
Yeah.
for only being her age.
Yeah,
And
my
so,
daughter loved it because she could see some of the pencil outline, and that's what I told her. She's like, "Well, but how did she do this?" And I said, "Like, look at it. You can kind of see like she sketched kind of the outline of what she wanted on the canvas, and then painted it accordingly." And she goes, "I never even thought of doing that." And so she grabbed her stuff out and started sketching stuff, and then trying to paint it. So it was very nice, and it has sparked some of her enthusiasm for trying to get better. So she
well,
really very
my
pleased.
daughter enjoys. And this is one of the things, like, we all have kids or grandkids or whatever it is, and I think that we were sitting here doing something and your daughter came up, poked her head on screen or something. And it was like, oh, hey, but hold on just a sec. And my daughter's like, what's her favorite character? What does she like? And it's like, well, you like anime? She was saying something about an anime. And it was like, well, what's your favorite character? And my daughter was like, well, is it this? And I was like, I don't know. Well, ask her, find out. But then she was able to engage. And so what happens is, as I engage with you, my daughter's like, well, let's get the kids involved, right? Because you involve me in discussions and asking me questions about, hey, what about this video do you like? Would this appeal to somebody who's younger than me? Is this video boring for you?
Right.
And so, but she's like, they have kids too. So let me do something for the kids. And so she was really happy to be able to do that. So I'll let her know that your daughter liked that. And that'll make her very, very happy.
Speaking of which, it's getting late here. I gotta cut this thing off so I can get some sleep. I got one more day before I have a day off. I took Friday off this week, but I got to put in an honest day tomorrow. And on the East Coast, it's already 12:30.
No, I got you.
All right. Well, to wrap it up, it's probably not as bad as we think, but it's always best to prepare for the worst. So continue stacking, like Constitutional said, make wise choices and analyze your purchases, like Frostbite said. And like I said, stay up on the current events and news. You don't glue yourself to it, but keep your ear to the pavement so you can hear these things coming and adjust accordingly, because as information travels and things develop now, it all happens pretty fast. So keep on your toes. We are going to be all right. We'll make it through this, and we will see how far these things push. But right now, it's not a very good outlook for at least the next year or so.
If I can add one thing to that.
Yeah.
Don't react. Stick to your strategy. Stick to your plan. Do not go in debt to stack. That's
right.
Counterintuitive. So stay your course. Stay your plan. If you're not sure about your plan, you're not sure what's going on, you're not sure if you're doing the right stuff, there are some brilliant people. Reach out to them, ask a lot of questions, and do that. Do not go into debt. Do not do that to yourself. It's not wise.
Right. The whole thing could turn out tomorrow to be fairy dust and poof, and it's all over, and they've come up with a fix, and the price of metals goes back down to $15 an ounce. It's very unlikely, but it's not. Nothing in this day and age seems to be impossible. So yeah, always just plan accordingly and keep up on the information. All right, Frostbite, I will talk to you soon, sir. Have a good night. Thank you for coming up and extending the live stream a little while after. Definitely appreciate that. And I will talk to you soon.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Bye.